In early 2026, something unexpected began happening across fan communities, social media platforms, and online discussion forums. There was no new interview, no surprise live broadcast, no official statement from Jungkook or his agency. And yet, his name began trending again, not because of a new release, but because of something he said years ago. Past interviews, old quotes, archived moments from live broadcasts and documentaries resurfaced one by one. Statements about change, growth, fear, and becoming someone better were suddenly being shared at a rapid pace. For many fans, it felt as though Jungkook's old words had found new meaning in 2026. This renewed attention did not come out of nowhere. Throughout his career, Jungkook has repeatedly spoken about personal development. Even during BTS's earliest years, he described himself as someone who was still learning and not finished growing. As BTS gained global recognition, those reflections became more nuanced. Jungkook spoke about pressure, responsibility, and the challenge of understanding who he was outside of performance. Later, during his solo era, his words shifted again, less about uncertainty, more about direction. He discussed wanting to improve not just vocally or physically, but emotionally and creatively. None of these statements were new. What was new was the timing. By January 2026, Jungkook stands at a unique point in his career. He is no longer simply the youngest member of BTS. He is no longer an emerging solo artist. He is a proven global figure whose influence has endured even during periods of reduced public activity. This context has caused fans to revisit his past words through a different lens. Statements that once sounded like hopes now sound like preparation. Thoughts that once felt uncertain now feel intentional. Fans emphasize that these interpretations are speculative. Still, the consistency of Jungkook's message over time has made many wonder whether he has always been quietly preparing for a long-term artistic evolution. One key factor intensifying this discussion is Jungkook's relative silence in early 2026. With no frequent updates, no new releases, and limited direct communication, fans naturally turn to existing material to understand his mindset. This phenomenon is not unusual for global artists, but Jungkook's case is particularly striking because of how often he has spoken openly in the past. In the absence of new statements, old words become reference points. Fans dissect tone, context, and timing. They compare earlier interviews with later ones, searching for patterns rather than predictions. Importantly, most discussions remain respectful and grounded, emphasizing that Jungkook owes no explanation and that all interpretations are personal reflections rather than confirmed truths. As fan discussions gained momentum, media outlets began to notice. Several international platforms referenced the resurgence of Jungkook's past quotes, framing the conversation as a reflection of his enduring relevance rather than evidence of specific plans. Journalists were careful with their language, frequently using terms such as fans speculate, past remarks resurface, and interpreted in a new context. This distinction matters. The conversation around Jungkook in early 2026 is not driven by rumors of scandal or unverified claims. It is driven by curiosity, admiration, and a desire to understand an artist whose words have consistently aligned with growth. One of the most striking patterns fans have noticed is how Jungkook's understanding of growth has evolved. In earlier years, growth meant skill. Better vocals, stronger performance, more confidence on stage. But as time passed, his language shifted. Growth became about balance, about understanding pressure, about protecting mental space while continuing to improve. By the time his solo era began, Jungkook was no longer talking about becoming better in a competitive sense. He spoke about becoming more honest with himself. In early 2026, Fans are revisiting these shifts and recognizing a clear progression, one that mirrors his career path almost perfectly. Jungkook's solo era plays a critical role in why his old words feel different now. During that period, he carried responsibility alone. Successes and criticisms were personal. Decisions felt heavier. And through it all, Jungkook continued to emphasize learning rather than proving. When fans revisit interviews from that time, they notice something subtle. He rarely framed success as an endpoint. Instead, he treated it as part of an ongoing process. This perspective has led many to believe that Jungkook has never viewed any era, group or solo, as final. Everything, in his view, appears transitional. The resurfacing of Jungkook's words also says something about fans themselves. People naturally seek narrative. They want stories that connect past, present, and future. Jungkook's openness over the years has provided the material for that connection. In 2026, fans are not inventing new meanings, they are organizing existing ones. His words act like markers along a timeline, and fans are simply tracing the line. Another reason Jungkook's statements resonate now is their lack of urgency. He never spoke as though growth had a deadline. He never suggested transformation needed to happen quickly. Instead, he consistently emphasized patience. In a fast-moving industry, this mindset stands out. Observers point out that Jungkook's steady, non-reactive approach may be one reason his popularity has endured so strongly into 2026. In early 2026, Jungkook's limited public presence has been interpreted by some as distance, but others see it differently. They see silence as a continuation of his philosophy, growth happening quietly away from constant performance. This interpretation remains speculative, but it aligns closely with the language Jungkook himself has used over the years. Music industry analysts often highlight Jungkook as an example of long-term artist development done correctly. Rather than rapid reinvention, his career reflects gradual expansion. Each phase builds on the last. This approach supports why his older words still feel relevant. They were never tied to a single moment. A recurring theme in discussions is the distinction between evolution and reinvention. Jungkook has never publicly expressed a desire to erase his past image. Instead, he has talked about adding layers. Fans now interpret his resurfaced words as evidence that any future shift, musical or personal, will likely be evolutionary rather than drastic. January 2026 feels symbolic, not because of a specific event, but because of timing. Years of work sit behind him. New chapters lie ahead. This naturally invites reflection. Jungkook's past words offer a framework for understanding where he stands now, without requiring new statements. Importantly, most fan discussions emphasize boundaries. There is widespread acknowledgement that interpretation should never become expectation, and curiosity should never become pressure. This respectful tone distinguishes the current conversation from rumor-driven speculation. Consistency is emotionally powerful. When an artist's words align across years, it builds trust. Fans feel reassured that what they see publicly reflects internal values. Jungkook's long-standing focus on growth has created that trust and explains why even his old words continue to carry weight. Another interpretation gaining traction is that Jungkook views growth as lifelong, not a phase, not a project, but a mindset. This idea resonates strongly with fans navigating their own changes, making his words feel universally relevant. One thing Jungkook has never done is declare arrival. He has never said, "I've become who I wanted to be." This absence of finality is precisely why fans believe his journey is ongoing, and why his past reflections still matter. Public interest often demands timelines. Jungkook's language rejects them. His past statements consistently emphasize moving at his own pace, regardless of external pressure. In early 2026, this contrast feels sharper than ever. Ultimately, Jungkook's words resurface because they were never temporary. They were not promotional sound bites, they were reflections. And reflections, by nature, remain relevant as long as the person continues to grow. As 2026 unfolds, one conclusion stands out. Jungkook's identity, beyond performance, charts, or visibility, is anchored in growth. Not dramatic, not rushed, not performative, just continuous. And that is why his past words feel alive today. By January 2026, one detail has become impossible to ignore. Jungkook hasn't said no. In an industry where denial comes faster than confirmation, silence can be just as powerful as words. HYBE has not released any official clarification, Jungkook has not addressed the rumors directly, no staff member has stepped forward to dismiss the speculation surrounding his next move, and in the K-pop world, that kind of silence is rarely accidental. Fans notice patterns. They remember how past comebacks were preceded not by press releases, but by quiet weeks filled with subtle signals, changed playlists, unexplained studio visits, late-night Weverse activity, and cryptic gestures that only longtime followers would catch. January 2026 feels eerily similar. Instead of denying the growing theories, Jungkook appears focused, private, and deliberate. The absence of chaos suggests preparation, and preparation in the BTS universe almost always leads somewhere. The question is no longer if something is coming, the question is how big it will be.